shows that Myerscough is just about winning. We're a winning program, and that's what we want to do. We want to win, no matter what it takes.
So our mindset is we need to get after them straight away.
We're aiming to be a championship team. We're aiming to be the very top. This isn't now about us participating. This is about us winning. Get used to winning, guys.
Myerscough free, 1, 2, 3.
Myerscough! Yeah!
After a long layoff, we are back with another episode of SCO, the podcast, coming at you. I've got a very special guest. He's actually coming later. I've just got another guest right now with me. I am joined by Myerscough basketball's architect and head of basketball, Neal Hopkins. Neal, thank you for taking the time to chat. Obviously, it's been, we caught up in Philly, a couple of weeks, over a month and a half ago. So good to see your beautiful face again. How have you been the last couple of weeks, back into this season?
Well, number one, the pod is back after a long hiatus. When was it, the last one? I can't remember. 2020?
2021, maybe, yeah.
And we've been pushing for this for a few months now, but obviously we have a good reason to get it back. But I'm good. It was great, obviously, to catch up with you in Philly not so long ago. Great to see your face as well. So how are you doing, Mr. Gunn? More importantly, our biggest advocate, our lead media guy. How are you doing?
Hanging in there, just one day at a time. And it's starting to get into some nice weather here finally. So I don't know what you can say about your weather there, but we're hanging in there, getting some good weather. And
it's interesting over here as always. But it was, obviously it was a pleasure to catch up with you a few weeks ago. And I think the big thing about that situation, I was thinking about it earlier actually. Do you recall the first time we took the trip out to Europe with those guys? Initially with Mate. Do you recall those times in Amari when we took those trips?
Oh yeah, absolutely. I remember particularly. Me and Troy, Mr. Cully, were talking about the other day. The first time we went out to, with Amari, and he just ate bread. The first because he didn't like any of the food. So for those guys, it was just. You remember like the wins and everything, but you also just remember, some of those moments off the court where you got to see them, just be kids, because that's what they were at that point. Enjoying, the experience that they got from the academy.
Yeah, and it was great as well. Like obviously when we were out there at Philadelphia, Amari put up his 1,000-point marker for Drexel. For me, it was a really important trip to go out there and almost close the loop on what has been an amazing journey for both of them. And in reality, their journey is only just beginning. Mate obviously will graduate this year, or he actually graduates later on in the year. And he's got the world at his feet. And obviously we're going to be talking about Amari and his projection from a basketball perspective. So it was incredible, really, and it was a big reminder to me as to the reason why we're so invested in what we do. And obviously, as you know, and as a lot of the listeners will know, I've had a little bit of a sabbatical, taken a little bit of time off for one reason or another. Had a little, something minor to deal with, but consider that dealt with. And I wanted to remind myself, not why I do it, because I know exactly why I do it, but just to go and see kind of the fruits of the labor. And it was brilliant to be out there and to see Mate and Amari, complete the loop. And it's something that, I wish and hope I can do more often with these guys. And it's not just about, the guys that are over there in the States. It's about the guys now, this is our 10th year as the program. And I met with a few of our alumni recently. I saw Earl Russell not so long ago. And it's just great to see how, the academy and their experience with them has impacted them and what they've gone on to do. And, I take so much pride in their success. And I know that the staff will share that view as well. Like it's such an important part of what we do, like, shaping of these guys' lives. And obviously everyone has a different journey. Everyone has a different outcome. But the last month and a half, 8 weeks since the Philadelphia trip in particular, I've really thought about that a lot more. I think that I was in a point of reflection anyway. And ultimately when you go through something traumatic like I have been, You take a lot of solace in those memories. And now obviously being back in the academy as full on as I am, is I love coaching. It's reminded me how much I love it. I love being with these guys and watching them develop and helping them. And yeah, I felt like a caged animal, and now I feel like I can get back into real rhythm, which is great. So yeah, thank you very much. I was going to say, for spending that time with me out there in Philadelphia. It was great, and it was a really nice way to kickstart this new era for me. And obviously we're talking about Amari. Forget me. It's a new era for him as well.
Yeah, absolutely. But I do want to loop back on, obviously, you've gone through such a personal journey, and it was something that you kept personal until you, made the announcement that your cancer was in remission. But for you to have, you know, throughout your life, looking back on that, one part, how did you sort of approach that versus anything else? Because obviously that's something that you can't really prepare for. So, having to get the academy, obviously on the back burner, but in a place, with the coaching staff there. Um, what's that been like, having to rely, kind of on others to control obviously what's been, your baby from the start?
Well, first and foremost, you need a lot of resilience to get through something, like cancer. And obviously people have their own traumas. People go into their own dark places, and it requires the same amount of resilience. Everybody walks their own path in life, and everybody deals with things slightly differently, and you've got to pay homage to that. Really, it's the same process for everyone. I think specifically for myself, I obviously didn't want to burden anybody with my bad news. I said that in my post when I announced it. It was obviously a lot easier to tell people that I was in remission at the point that I was. But I just got on with it, honestly. And there was obviously setbacks along the way, and it was difficult, as you'll know. But I never wanted to make it a thing that was going to define me or dictate what I was, believing or thinking, and this, that, and the other. And I just stayed true to, who I am and the experiences that I've had throughout my life, which have given me strength, and this, that, and the other. And ultimately, my remit was just to get it done. Honestly, I couldn't wait to see the back of it. And there's a lot of things that you can control, and there was a lot of things that I had no control of at all. So I focused on the things that I was able to do, and this, that, and the other. And yeah, and I just kept a positive mindset, honestly. And obviously I dealt with a lot of it with my close with my family, and with people that were very close to me initially through June, and then from June onwards, really, I was, it was kind of the waiting game, or ticking it down to the end. It was intense. It was hard. It was difficult. It was all that stuff. You stare your own mortality in its face, and I come to terms with a lot of the possible outcomes. But yeah, I just got on with it, Alan. What else can you do? You know that time is just going to tick away on it. So I just got on with it, and that was my mindset.
Yeah.
With regards to the academy and stuff, that kind of pales into insignificance, really. We've got an amazing group of staff here that, it's always going to be difficult when you take away a big part of something for a prolonged period of time, whatever. But ultimately, I never built this to be reliant on one person. And, the college and the staff here did a fantastic job in my absence, making sure that we push through. I think my biggest my biggest regret of it, not regret because I couldn't help what happened, but I just really missed coaching the guys that had come to play for me, and I don't want to name them all, but they know who they are. And that group that came through at the beginning of last year, obviously the group that went to the EABL final last season. I honestly, I saw so much potential in those guys, and I felt that I know I didn't let them down because I couldn't help what happened, but I just really missed having that interaction with them and coaching them over the course of the year, because that's what that was where I'd set myself out at, before that kind of, before the diagnosis happened and I got ill. So I miss that, but I feel like I've been making up for that since I've been back. 2 weeks after I'd finished my treatment, I was back in work. And I think 3 weeks later, I was driving the guys back to games, and trying to do the workouts and stuff. And obviously, I've got to ease myself in and be realistic. But on the flip side, I don't have any time to waste. I know what I want. I want to get into it. I want to be working with these guys as much as possible. I want them to, give me their energy, because I take a lot from that. And yeah, it's I'm just happy to get past it. So I'll give you the couple of things. Obviously, for people that might be listening, don't ask me how my health is. It's the question I get asked all the time. My health is good, no problem. Everything is in the right direction. I don't really need to talk about it anymore. So, I'm more than happy to move forward. It's something that the further I get away from it, the quicker and, I will forget it. It will be etched in there in places, but, all I want to do now is move forward and I'm energized. I'm ready to go. And, I'm looking forward to really kind of getting back into it and next season. And the guys here at Myerscough know that as well. I've been really active this year, coached the conference team under 18s, had a great year with those guys. I really appreciate their efforts over the course of it. It's been refreshing. And then I've been doing as many individuals and bits and pieces as I can possibly do as well. So yeah, it's gone from in reality, when I think I only completed the treatment in September, what is it, like 6 months now? In reality, I'm at full tilt at this point, but I think I have more to give. So that's what I'm looking forward to.
And I'm gonna give you the countdown, the old Jim Valvano countdown. The light was blinking, the Zoom light is blinking as well on us for whatever reason. We're not on the professional one, so at some point we will have to reset it.
Yeah.
But other than that, before we have to reset it, I would like to get your thoughts. Where we've been, talking about Amari and Mate and their next part of the journey. For you to have seen, them go through, that cycle of 4 years, 5 years. What's it like to see them come out, hopefully not just better basketball players, but better people. It's just everything that they've got going ahead of them now. What's that like to see, particularly with Mate, who's going to leave with a degree and a master's degree. So you can see how he's taking advantage of his scholarship from an from the academic standpoint, particularly.
Yeah, I mean, it's amazing, and we're super proud of them. As I said, with all of the guys that have come through the program, we're super proud of their success, and it's something that we avidly follow. I mean, that because we have these conversations about these guys all the time. And we almost live their life with them. Through the social media and this, that, and the other, and keeping a tab on them and looking at the stats and following all their achievements. So we're super proud of them, and it's just great for me to have the loop closed, on this part of it. We pride ourselves in helping these guys realize their next step, and you hope that when they do make that move, that they're able to have the resilience to see out the ups and the downs. And I think Myerscough gives guys a really good platform for that. We're a great bridge just because you move away from home when you come to here, and you're having to manage the expectation and your time management, and there's loads of little things that you have to manage at Myerscough that actually get completely amplified when you go to a university or into the real wide world. So, I'm never surprised about the success, because I think that that's what we build them to do. And they obviously, they're, the character and everything that they have illustrates that they're going to be able to be successful. But it's always nice to see the end product and see them enjoying, what they've created. And Mate and Amari are testament to resilience and perseverance and riding the highs and the lows. And yeah, it was great to go out there and see them. But as I said, that's the same for any of the guys, that have come through the program. We're huge advocates of what guys do, and we're always there. It is a big family, and it's this is just a snapshot of a couple of guys that really exemplify what we're about. But loads of them are in the same boat. So hopefully that answers your question. It was great to close the loop. Yeah, that was the most important thing, I think, in my mind.
We've seen what he's been able to accomplish, in his 4 years at, at Drexel. For him now to be moving on to a place like Kentucky, what does that say about, the name that he's made for himself as a basketball player, on court? Because obviously that's got to just be something so special for, for him to have garnered so much attention, off the back of, the effort that he's put in, the last 4 years, for you to see that and for him to see, all that work come to fruition. What's that like, for him, do you think, haven't had those conversations with him, does he realize
Uh,
kind of what
yeah,
he's gotten himself into?
I think obviously Amari will be able to go into this in a lot more detail, but or will he? Because Amari, is under it all. Amari is still the most humble, down to earth guy, that I'm not saying that I've ever met, but like, he's stayed so true to, the characteristics that he's always had, and I don't think that he will jump on the podcast and overly hype himself up. And I think that that's what is, super attractive about Amari from a basketball perspective, because he just goes about his work. He's been the same for since I've known him. And actually, I was having this conversation with Alex Hodgson, who was our strength and conditioning coach a few years ago. And when we were going through the process of bringing Amari up, we wanted to make some effort to go and see him down in Nottingham. And Alex and I went down to Nottingham, and Alex, we'd noticed obviously that Amari was, physically much bigger than, most of the guys that were his age. And, we wanted to make sure that we had a bit of a physical plan before, for him before he came to Myerscough. We wanted to jump on that and, really work on that early. And I said to Alex in a message, I said, the craziest thing is we went down there and Amari barely spoke, and he didn't speak to us really because he was, quite reserved, quite shy. But still, he just went about his work. I wouldn't say he overly pushed himself at that point, but he took in all the ideas, and, he analyzes the situation that was around him. And I think we walked away from that thinking, now we know how much potential he has. It's really just a case of unpicking it and putting him in a situation where he feels comfortable enough to express himself. And, as you see through Amari's experiences, whether that was a 14th place finish at the Den Camp, for instance. Now, that was a really important moment for Amari, and I'll come back to that in a second, or whether that was his experience through GB, where Amari had put himself in a position, obviously through his physical stature. This was after the first year of Myerscough, where he was recognized. He went into the Hoops 6 All-Star Classic a year early as a junior because of his potential and the way people, perceived, the physical tools and attributes that he had. But Amari wasn't quite ready for it at that point. And, we saw that through the Den Camp rankings, and we saw that through his output with GB, which wasn't great. But I think that was a really important lesson for him. And actually, I remember having a conversation with some of the Drexel coaches and saying, it was never a case that I was not sure about him, but he needed to have that realization. And I think through that summer before he came back in, the 2019-20 season, the season that we won the EYBL, I think that was the moment where, his mentality turned. And, off the back of that year, off the back of that summer in particular, he was a monster, and he's always had attention to detail. But, the environment that we had here, and, again, the irony of it is I was talking to Bradley Caboza, and he said to me, the battles in the HPC is what made Amari that year. And, and it's true because, he had Bradley in there, Franklin, obviously Great was in there. The team was super competitive. I'm looking at a picture of him on the wall. We had Sam Chigbo in here who could match Amari's for height. Sami Fajana, obviously, a highly skilled player. So he had all the components around him that would push him, and he was never he was never the big dog, so to speak. I think we'll give that to Bradley, maybe
I'd say
Franklin.
I'd agree. I would agree with
Yeah,
Brad.
they can debate that between themselves, but the group was so good for each other, and that I think filled them with confidence. And obviously they had an amazing season, which was cut short by COVID. But then I think you could see it with Amari, just his personal growth. And again, I talk about some of the little things that we did. For instance, he had the job over at the sports center reception, and the reason why I said, Amari, get that job, and it'll make you speak to people. And lo and behold, obviously you got to talk to people if you're working behind a desk. And like I said, he's never been he's not what you perceive as a natural extrovert. However, he definitely has that in him. If you watch him play, and we obviously watched him play for Drexel, and the way he's developed his basketball character is fantastic. And he plays with that confidence now. But I think under it all, Amari's the same guy. He's humble. He's someone that's highly reliable. He's super down to earth. And that just makes him such a lovable individual. And it's testament to his family and everything that's happened. And it's great. And what really like makes me feel really happy about the whole situation is I know that the guys from that team that he was here with still have great communication with Amari, and his feet are well and truly on the ground. And that just helps I think with him understanding the magnitude of the move. But also he knows that he's got a lot of support around him, that's real and true. And it's been some journey for him, and I'm sure he'll hype it up a little bit more than that. But I'm no doubt that Kentucky fans might listen to this, and you're getting a real one. You're getting someone that he's a genuinely really great guy. So that's the Amari Williams cut short story, I guess.
And I remember he told us when we were there at Drexel that he was surprised that he lasted more than a day at that sports center job, because he thought he was going to get let. I remember he said he thought he was going to get let go because he had done something wrong.
I've definitely got a picture for you of him at the reception, which I'll send to you, and you can clip it into this, of him first day on the job, stood behind the desk, filling the door. But that was important, and I said to Amari, like, Drex as well. He had Paul Fortier with him. Paul Fortier was an extension of Mike Bernard's. Was someone that's walked the walk, that understands it from Amari's perspective. As Mike did, and that was really important for Amari as well to have that. That kind of that mentor. And he, like I said, Amari has etched this out by himself for sure. But I think that, when he reflects on it, he'll notice, a lot of the little steps that have been put in place to allow him to climb this huge ladder that he's now on.
Yeah, absolutely. And you kind of touched on it, there before. What kind of a player is Kentucky getting? Obviously, we've seen what he can do, points production wise, rebounding. He's got great vision, but what kind of player are they getting that you've seen develop over the last 4 years, that they should be super excited about?
Yeah, and I think I don't want to get into the crux of this technically and tactically, but you've got an individual that's that's very planted, that's very consistent, that has a massive will, I think, at this point to improve and to get better. But he's someone that could come in and make an impact right away, with his intelligence, with his ability to read the game, his interaction with his teammates. He glues people together. He does a lot of the small things very, very well. I think it's been quite well documented, his output on defense in particular. He's someone that's highly committed to that. And obviously with his physical makeup, he's a huge presence. So obviously there's things that he will be committed to working on. But I think more importantly, from a character perspective, he's someone that understands that, knows the process, and is more than willing to commit the time. And I'm excited to see how he develops from a skill set perspective. But if I'm the coach of any team, one of the most important things is recruiting high character people, and Amari really is that. He makes the dressing room better. He was someone that our guys looked to, and I know that was the same at Drexel. He's such a presence, and he's one of the quiet presences as well. So he gives you that assurance, and I think with Amari, I think that's the most important thing. When you're recruiting, particularly to a new team and you're trying to establish a new culture, you want high character people, and Amari certainly is that.
And just to kind of finish, I don't want to keep you too long, obviously, but just talk to me about the magnitude of a player like Amari from Britain, who's been trained in Britain, now going up to one of the blue bloods of college basketball. Obviously, the likes of like Tosan was able to etch his name at Princeton, with just an incredible run in the NCAA tournament. He's turned that into a great run in the G League, as well as a contract with the Detroit Pistons. Obviously, there's someone that we've known very well, having played Newcastle, where he's was trained. But to have what's the magnitude of players like Amari, Cam Hildreth, guys like that are really propping up British basketball. And because Kentucky's a name that people in Britain know. They're one of the blue bloods. For what's this magnitude of Amari's, what he's accomplishing? What does that mean to the larger scope of British basketball getting recognition and hopefully down the line, maybe getting even funding?
Yeah. Well, I think, first and foremost, having aspirational people within, people that, our younger generation can aspire to be is critical. And obviously you listed a few there, and there's been many before it, and I'm sure there'll be many that come after. And everyone obviously has their chosen route in terms of how they do it. And I think over the years, I've now been doing this, obviously at Myerscough, it's about 10th year, but I've been coaching this age group now for nearly 16 years at a good standard, and I've seen a lot of guys come through the system. And obviously there's always been this stigma, I think, that you can't do it coming out of Britain. And I think Amari is an illustration that this is viable to achieve that. And actually, if you look at the volume of players now that are in America that have come through the EABL programs, or the academy system and structure over here in the UK, year on year it's getting bigger. And but now I think Amari and the guys that go to the huge schools, so to speak, it gives us a new perspective on aspiration, and it demonstrates that it's more than doable through our system. Obviously Amari is a physical specimen, so but over the last few years, what's been happening is typically guys like that have been going to America early, and hopefully there's just a bit of a reminder that you don't necessarily have to do that. That if you're good enough, you'll get spotted, you'll get found. Your pathway, it might take you a few more years, to get to the level that you want to get to, but ultimately, the pathway is there. And I think from a British basketball perspective, it demonstrates that it can work, in these circumstances. We have great coaching over here in the UK. We have a very supportive and nurturing environment. I feel through our club setups. Obviously, the volume sometimes is something that can be missing, and getting the repetition up and the level of competition and stuff. But actually, through some of the academies in the UK, that's definitely provided. And ultimately, I think if I talk about Amari exclusively, his experience through the EYBL, and the differences in all the different experiences that he was able to have through us was really important and critical for building that resilience and that the durability to move over to the US. And obviously he still had to go through some ups and downs over there to get to where he is, but he was built and ready to do that. And I think that's testament to our program and obviously the system as well. It's not really about just getting to the States. It's about, the staying over there. It's not about getting to become a pro player, for instance. It's about the durability and longevity of it as well. So for Amari to have completed 4 years now to go into his fifth, is fantastic. For guys to graduate is what we're ultimately aiming for and we want to see. But we have to bear in mind that we're playing a small part in this. However, between the ages of 16, 18, 19, they're critical ages, from all these standpoints, physical development, obviously from personality, character, mental maturation, this, that, and the other, all that stuff. It's critical and it's really important, especially with the way in which young people are evolving nowadays. It's really important that they're in an environment that's supportive and nurturing of that during those ages. And I think that over the years, through trial and error and experience and having the staff that we do at Myerscough, we've been able to create a great environment that supports that, whether it's to go and play in the States, go to Kentucky, or whether it's to get a job as a doctor, or whatever it may be. We've done a good job helping build those foundations. So yeah, it speaks volumes. Hopefully it gives us another point that we can look towards. Amari has to realize that the guys that are coming next will look to him, and we need those figureheads and those role models within British basketball. And Amari is such an attainable figure that, in
Not
terms of
stature-wise,
who
at least.
he is. Yeah, I'm obviously not in terms of height, but in terms of who he is and what he represents and the journey and the pathway that he's been on, and I think that that's very relatable. Obviously now he's at the pinnacle. He's in dreamland, as I said to him, and he's got to keep living that now. But so it's, maybe people won't be that high, that tall.
I certainly won't.
You probably definitely won't. I don't know, maybe. But with perseverance and stuff, you keep pushing, and everybody has an ambition. You've got to see people that have had that same ambition and watch them follow and have their success. But as I said, in the piece before, like, success looks different to everyone anyway. It's fantastic for British basketball.
Absolutely. And just to finish, I got one more for you. You kind of touched on it already, but for the guys, whether they're going to be successful in basketball or successful in another career, we've had guys come through the program that have created their own businesses. They've done this, they've become lawyers. So there's a whole scope of what people have accomplished, having used the platform of Myerscough to get them to that step or to the next step. For the guys that do have that success, what are the intangibles? What are the things that you notice as a coach, as a lecturer, that kind of make them separate themselves out, and you can kind of see that they will, if they stay focused, if they continue to do the right things, will ultimately have that success. I mean, you can think of like the Hickey twins, some guys like that, all the people that we've really had on the podcast, that have had that success and they've gone out and kind of made it.
You're asking me for a huge, a dissertation level answer, and you're going to give me 6 seconds to give it. That's it's a great question, and I will say this: you have just jumped that on me. So a few things. Number one, you got to turn up, right, and be useful. Like that's pretty important in the first instance. Okay, so I would say about the Hickey twins, and for instance, always were useful, always turned up, made it so we would miss them when they, as soon as they went home for summer, we would miss them badly because they've become, so integral to the intricacies, so be useful and turn up. I guess that flips into, the point of durability as well. So, even when the going gets tough, do you keep going? Do you finish the thing that you started? Do you have the same passion and energy for, what you had at the beginning, halfway through? And if you've lost that passion and energy, how do you reinvigorate yourself, and motivate yourself? And obviously someone like Amari, seeing the goals and seeing someone achieve some success who's walked the same path, hopefully will give you that motivation. The resilience piece, so riding out the ups and the downs. I had a bad game, I didn't achieve the right grade on that assignment. Okay, well, get through it. You keep going. The ability to go again. We say that as our little tagline. We go again all the time. But above everything else, you got to appreciate everything. There's a commitment to you from other people. There's a trust in you from other people. People will be going, I always say it's a privileged place to be if someone truly believes in you. And you have to appreciate that, because there's lots of people in the world, that probably are not in that situation where someone believes that they can be great at something, and someone believes in their character and their personality and everything that they have. And I really think that you have to appreciate that. That's so important. So, how do you show that? Well, by saying thank you, by acknowledging people for stuff that they've done for you. And, sometimes within society that gets forgotten quite quickly. And I think I can share this sentiment with a lot of coaches. I'll give you a prime example. When a coach drives you to a game, do you just get out the car after and just walk off, or do you say thanks for giving up that time? So, the appreciation piece is really important. So, yeah, so obviously you have all the other physical attributes and bits and pieces like that, but really those are some things that really, really stand out to me. And I think that through the guys that have had a lot of success, that's been, those words that I've just covered and the kind of descriptions of those has been something that's been, very, very consistent with them.
Well, Neal, I do appreciate the time. Obviously, we've got a great guest coming ahead. Hopefully our Kentucky fans are going to be excited about as Amari, as, we were to watch him play, ever since we've, kind of had him around the program. So I know we're going to see great things come from him. And this is just, the next step of that.
Yeah, I'm no doubt most people just skip through my bit to get to this. So the main event is about to happen. So enjoy your conversation with Amari. It's been great to finally get back on the pod, and hopefully this is the first of a new series.
This is a battle. You have to be ready to battle.
Hey, let's go, 40 minutes.
That's it.
Hey, let's go.
That's it.
Let's go. Hey, let's go. Myerscough. 3, 1, 2, 3.
Myerscough.
I am pleased to be joined by 3-time CAA Defensive Player of the Year and the newest member of Kentucky men's basketball, Amari Williams, obviously former Myerscough College, alumni here. So thanks for taking the time to chat.
Yeah, appreciate you for having me.
We caught up, just a couple months ago, and things obviously have changed for you since then. So, what have the last, several weeks been like for you? Just, to wrap your head around, what it's been like.
Yeah, I would say it was a stressful few weeks. I would say, just because you see a lot of players are leaving, their schools, a lot of coaches also leaving too. So, just taking your time and just like letting it unfold. I feel like that's something I was doing past 2 weeks. It was definitely stressful at times, especially just before I made my decision. But I finally came around to it. So.
Yeah, absolutely. And for you, this is the first time that you have entered the transfer portal. So for you, how stressful was it compared to doing your recruitment 4 years ago now?
Yeah, 4 years ago I only had Drexel and Charleston, so I was kind of I didn't really go through it all like how other players would. But as soon as I hit the portal, it was actually my finals week here at Drexel. So trying to do exams, study for exams, and you got college coaches calling you every minute, unsafe numbers, you don't know who it is. It's just it was a lot that week. So
Oh, I can only imagine. And what was it kind of like between, when you look back at your recruitment, as going in as a freshman, obviously you were playing, D2 at the time, you're playing EABL, EYBL. Obviously coaches were reaching out to you at that point. Obviously it's a higher volume, haven't seen what you've done, throughout your 4 years at Drexel, but, what was it like to, have coaches, reach out to you and, recognize, obviously as a freshman going in, but now as a senior, what was that kind of like? Did you kind of get the same feel of like, hey, it's kind of nice to be wanted?
Yeah, I mean, it was definitely a different feel as, when I was coming as a freshman, but, just knowing that a lot of the schools, schools you kind of watched on TV as a kid, kind of reaching out, wanting you to play for them. So it was a great feeling, I would say, very blessed. So.
And you mentioned, teams that you've watched on TV, teams that, you've heard of, prior to the process that might've been, you'd think that, maybe it's a dream to one day play from, to, have teams like that reaching out to you, to have, Hall of Fame coaches reaching out to you, what does that say, about where you've gone from in your development throughout your 4 years?
Yeah, I say just, taking a lot of big steps, especially, through the years, freshman year, not playing at all to coming off the bench sophomore year to starting, the next 2 years. It's just, kind of, yeah, it's kind of a surreal feeling, I'd say, especially when some schools you would reach out, you would think like you would never hear from them or never have the opportunity. But, yeah, it's definitely a great feeling.
And, I guess your visit to Kentucky, um, obviously it's crazy how social media has changed things. When you're on your visit to Kentucky, everyone knows you're at Kentucky. There's video used at, Keeneland, and, going through like the process with Coach Pope, to be around that. Obviously, Coach Pope is someone, who played at Kentucky and, is very well respected, well liked there. So obviously he's recognized. So to have that kind of environment, is that something that jumped out to you, on that visit?
I mean, yeah, it even like I don't know if you've seen it, but it even started before I even got to Keenan's. People trying to sneak a picture at the airport because it's just such a thing, like a big thing in Kentucky right now. And can only imagine Great's there right now. Can only imagine what it's like for him. So just having that feeling and just knowing, like at Drexel, we're in the city of Philadelphia. We got the Sixers, and no one really like. Even if you're good like Nova, you don't really have the same feeling as some of these cities where it's just college teams. So seeing how it was in Lexington, just knowing that it's just Kentucky basketball, it was crazy.
Yeah, I mean, me and Neal came out to watch you guys, play a couple games. We walked around. And obviously, you got some attention and things like that, from some of the staff. Um, when we were there, you eclipsed, 1,000 career points. So obviously, a huge deal for any collegiate player, any player at any level to reach that 1,000 point mark. For you to have, accomplished that in front of, effectively your high school coach, for the American audience. What was that like to have him there in the building for that? And, for you, what was that like, as a career benchmark to, eclipse that, career point total?
Yeah, I mean, it was surreal to have both you guys there. I feel like, I think it was what, 4 points I needed to get a
Yeah.
thousand.
Mhm.
And someone told me before the game, so I didn't even really like realize I was that close. But, I didn't really like think I would get 1,000 points. It seems, well, it is a lot. I didn't really feel like I scored that many times. But, just to have that moment with you guys there, you and Neil, and just, reaching that milestone, it was big. I was thankful for that. So,
And it's funny that I think it came on a free throw as well. So for you to have had it come
yeah.
on a free throw of all, types of things, not a dunk, not, a trusty, left-handed layup that you used to, what was it like to, be running back down the court, right after that and they're announcing that, it's got to be just such a cool moment for you.
Yeah, it was. I think we was down bad. I think it was like what, 19-7 as well. So it was like I was happy I reached a milestone, but at the same time, like we're getting, being pretty bad right now, so we gotta lock in. But yeah.
And kind of going back to Neal and the whole experience that you had at Myerscough, what has that done for your career? We've talked about it multiple times before, but how important was Myerscough within your development, to get you ready for the collegiate stage and everything that kind of comes with it, from practices, academics, everything like that. What did Myerscough do for you as that kind of platform?
I mean, it did a lot on the court. It's just, like everyone at their respective clubs in their cities, wherever you came from, like for me, Mansfield or like Great in Bradford, like you're always gonna be the best player on your team. So to finally go to somewhere where like you may not be the best player, there's a lot of good players around you, and just knowing that you don't always have to be the scorer. I feel like that kind of locked into my mind early, especially coming in as a freshman, knowing that that's not going to be what they want me for. Even now, going to Kentucky, that's not what I wanted for. So, just knowing like your role and just what you can do to help a team. And then off the court, it's just, like I feel like if you lived at Myerscough, you can live through anything. So it's just, and then being able to do classwork, like, you got a lot of off time. You could be around Myerscough, at the whole stables or, just whatever you want
Yeah.
to do, just messing around. But, and that you have to do your schoolwork during that time, that taught me a lot too. So,
Yeah, and just for the American audience, the Kentucky audience, it's actually been kind of crazy. We've been following along obviously with your journey through the throughout the portal, obviously at Drexel the last 4 years, but throughout the portal as well. And the Kentucky fans, they're crazy, and I mean, I don't
Yeah,
know, you must know what you're getting yourself into, but
yeah, I've
you
seen
know,
it. It's
it's crazy what they've been putting on social media for to hopefully get you there, and you mentioned great and things like that, but me, Neil, and Troy have just been kind of chuckling at some of the numbers of the exposure that has come through the Myerscough account, the account. But for the American audience, can you just kind of describe what Myerscough was like for you? What it was like walking on campus, and because it's not your traditional like IMG academy where
yeah.
you're at the
I mean,
specific.
it was very different to what people would think. Like it was basically what a farm, no service out there. If the Wi-Fi went out, we're playing hide and seek at night, things like that around the woods. It's just yeah, it's just like an experience not many people would have. Everyone, a lot of people in England decide to go to the city schools. Whether that's in London, Leicester. But Myerscough was just kind of like his own place. There wasn't that many students, and we all went to class together, like the whole team, even people on other teams in the basketball academy too. So it was like your own kind of like brotherhood, kind of family. Yeah, that's basically what it was.
And I spoke to Neil about this as well. Me and him talked earlier, and just about what it means to be flying the flag for British basketball. Obviously, you've had a chance to work out with Tosan. You've been working out with Great, obviously, with GSL Sports Group, and a whole bunch of guys from Europe. But to be a player from Britain, that's kind of paving the way for hopefully the next generation. What's that kind of been like for you? Maybe stepping into that spotlight now. It's culminating now in a spot at Kentucky.
Yeah, I mean, it's always an honor to kind of do that, just kind of inspire the next group. I feel like growing up, I had a lot of like inspirations. Even looking up to like Tosan being in the league right now, I feel like that's a big thing for British basketball. And then, me at Kentucky, we've got loads of other guys, Cameron Hildreth, Wake Forest. So just having guys around who are playing at a high level and just, finally putting like England Britain on a stage like this, it's just, it means a lot. It means that we're growing too in the sport. So that's a good thing.
Absolutely, and hopefully it translates down the line to I mean it won't bring politics, but hopefully government funding decides that they realize that
Yeah.
getting behind British basketball is something that is vitally important because you're sending players to the national stage, and it's unbelievable what academies have been able to accomplish, and that system is working. Um, but for you, the last 4 years, what's been something that you've seen your game improve on, that you left Myerscough hoping to improve on, and now you've added to your game?
Um, I'll say just defending. I feel like it's when I was at my school, like it was easy to just, go around there, guard anyone. Oh, the tallest person guards the tallest person. It's just, I feel like there's a lot more to it, especially in the college game, especially against teams that run a lot of sets. So I'll just say, just kind of like defense and just, understanding the game and like what other teams want to do. And then I'll just say strength. I feel like freshman year, I was playing against a senior, like, I think what there was four bigs, three of them were seniors. So I was getting pushed around a lot my freshman year, and I realized that was something that was going to have to change over the summer. So just, putting on weight and just kind of, being able to stand my ground. I feel like that was something I learned a lot too.
And with Kentucky now, what is something that you feel Kentucky offers, particularly Mark Pope as being a big, because we've seen the pictures and everyone kind of joked about it. They said that in the media
But
guide, Mark Pope's 6'10", but when they saw
yeah.
you, they're like, man, he's got to be 7 foot. A, can you answer? Have you grown since you've been at in the States?
So the thing is that I feel like, so my freshman year, I got measured and I was 6'10". And like over the years, loads of people kept saying, "Oh, you've grown," but I was just like, I would just brush it off, like not really think much of it. And I didn't get measured until I think it was my Mississippi State visit. Then I got measured at St. John's, and at both of them, I was like 6'11" and 3/4 with shoes on. So I feel like I must have grown. So I'm I'm gonna start saying 7 foot only for like basketball purposes. But if anyone else asks, I'm 6'10". So
Yeah. And what do you hope that or what do you think that Kentucky, Mark Pope, being a big, a former big, um, is gonna afford your game? Because obviously your goal is probably to get to the league, or to play professionally somewhere. So for you, what do you think? Not only does Kentucky, who has produced, numerous NBA players, but what do you hope that this year is going to do for your game to improve you to, get to that next level?
Yeah, I mean, the first and foremost thing was just, being on the biggest stage, playing against NBA guys night in, night out. The SEC league is really no joke. You see all the guys who come out of that one. So, just playing in that conference would mean a lot. And then I would say just watching Mark Pope's offense at BYU. It was 5 out, and their big was, he was a passer, the same things I do now. So just doing that at a higher stage, I feel like he'll get more looks, and just, being able to defend like I have now, I feel like that's a big thing too. So just those two things I feel like will help me a lot in just terms of making it to the next stage, wherever that may be. So
For sure, and obviously defensively, it comes without saying, a three-time defensive player of the year for the CAA. Did you think that that was something that you was possible? Did you start focusing on that, knowing that that was something that would give you a platform, to be recognized? Obviously you're garnered with a lot of accolades from the CAA, but is that probably, um, having done that three times and being the only player to do that in that, conference's history, is that something that, you set yourself a mark to do, having known that you'd done it once before?
I mean, all the years that I won it, I would always give credit to my teammates because it's just there's so many things that go behind it. Like rebounding, I feel like I was first twice, second once. And then the other categories like blocks and steals, like even the year I just won it, I was tied first in the conference. But because we finished second, it's like, like it has to go to me kind of thing. So just, kind of doing it at the right moments, having, the team around me to help to like allow me to do that, the coaches, and just, feel like that's kind of the reason I won all three instead of just going out there and just getting the shot blocks myself. So
And you got the chance to play with Mate for 4 years. So what was that like? Having someone like that by your side, through the process. Obviously you spent time with him at Myerscough as well. So what was that like to learn from him? But then obviously within your senior year, we could tell that you had taken on more of a leadership role. So for going to Kentucky now, how are you going to be able to build off that? Someone like Amate, who was a leader at Myerscough, a captain, and then you turned into a captain, there at Drexel. What was that, like to, kind of grow into more of a leader, more of a guy that, is the focal point of the team like that?
yeah. So first of all, I'll say, even though me and Matty always joke about it, he'll always be like my big brother in a sense. Just because, he knew me better than everyone. He knew when like I was feeling a certain way. And, he always helped me get out of that slump, wherever that may be. And that's even from my freshman year when I wasn't playing a lot. So, I always give props to him for that. And then taking that role onto Kentucky is just, I mean, right now it seems like we have an older team, so I feel like it's more easier. But like the younger guys, just, helping them out when they may need something, or just, I feel like everyone's just going to be uplifting because you know how, you know, I, I don't want to say it now, but it's like, loads of people are going to be looking at us, doubting us. So it's just, making sure that we all kind of stay together as one and just, just go out there as a team and just fight together. So I feel like that's one thing that would have to be emphasized a lot.
Yeah. And you're coming from a quote unquote mid-major well, with the Coastal now into one of the Power Five conferences of the SEC. What is that like? Going to translate. What is the CAA help prepare you for? Because we're seeing a lot of great, quote unquote mid-major players come in and have immediate success with some of these conferences like the SEC, Big 12. What is it about mid-major programs that really prepares you to make that next jump?
Um, I'll just say like I just feel like it's a feeling of everyone comes from a different level. Like you got guys who feel like they were under recruited at mid major levels. Always got like that feeling that basically motive to go prove people wrong. Guys from JUCO. Just guys from everywhere. So I feel like being a mid major guy going to a Power Five just just remembering like I came from a mid major and like playing these teams was something I would always look forward to and like be up to when I was playing, at Drexel. So just, keeping that feeling and that mentality that, I'm not really meant to be playing in this conference right now. So I feel like that should help me.
Absolutely. You guys picked up a great win over Villanova this year. What was that like? What are some of your memories that you're going to carry on with you, from this chapter in your life into the next one that you'll look back on, in 10, 15 years and be like, it was kind of crazy that, I accomplished that at that part of my life.
Yeah, I'll definitely say the Villanova game. I feel like just because we finished last in our group, we lost to Temple and LaSalle. Like we could have easily went into that game. I feel like like it's Villanova, like, and then they proved that they lost to St. Joe's and Penn. So like just going in there knowing that it's us versus them, like anyone can come out top, especially at the Wells Fargo with our school there. I feel like that's probably one of the biggest crowds we've had, and just how the game unfolded. I feel like that was something we would all remember.
No, that's
So
crazy though.
yeah.
And moving into Kentucky, what kind of a player, is Kentucky getting? We've talked about your defensive effort. We know you can score. Giving you all the stuff, here. We know you can score. We know you can, play defense. We know you can pass. But what kind of a player, from Amari Williams, from your mind, what kind of player is Kentucky getting, and
I'll
what
just
should
say
they be
it's
excited about?
just someone who's just ready to play. Never really played in front of a crowd like that, so just having the energy from the crowd and just being thankful that I'm there. I feel like that would kind of show in my game. So something like that.
Yeah, and what stood out about Kentucky? Obviously, you made visits to Mississippi State, St. John's, but what was it about Kentucky that stood out to you? Obviously, it's one of the biggest programs that you can go to, at the collegiate level. But for what was it that stood out in your visit?
Um, on my visit, I'll just say just the fact that how it is with the city, like the whole everyone who basically came across me kind of knew who I was. Wanted me to go to that school. But I'll say for the main part, it was more so Coach Pope and Coach Cody. Those two guys have been recruiting me since that was at BYU, and they were essentially the first school to start recruiting me. So I feel like guys who believe in me like that, and show the need instead of just because every other school's reaching out kind of thing. So I feel like that's the main reason why Kentucky was the place for me to go.
And it must be tough getting a bunch of people to, coming after you saying, "Hey, come here." But is it tough to realize who's being serious and who's not being serious? Because obviously, like you said,
Yeah,
Kentucky was someone that was on it, right away, showing you that sort of, we want you to play here. Was
yeah,
it kind of tough to get all that attention and realize, or and trying to kind of piece out which were the ones that, were being serious about it, because obviously it's a
yeah.
totally different.
Cool. Yeah, I feel like because like they were saying, I just started the like when you go in the portal, like every school's gonna call just to say they called kind of thing. So ones who would just follow through and just kind of the ones who were like I would speak to the whole coaching staff individually. I feel like they're the ones who are more serious, and then just the ones who just I feel like that's it. Just the ones who like when I had Zoom calls, like if it was just the head coach on the Zoom call, it's like was the rest of the staff kind of thing. But every school which I kind of had a Zoom call with, except a few, the whole staff was there, so it was kind of easy to see, and especially the ones who kind of scheduled me for my visits closer towards the like first end of the week where we was able to do that. Like if it was later on, you kind of realize that you know there's kind of a backup plan just in case the guys who go first didn't commit. So I feel like that's what it was. And the two schools which I came down to, essentially, I was both their first visits, Mississippi State and Kentucky. So that was a tough decision for me to make in the end.
Yeah, at two SEC schools. So it seems like something that you were targeting was, maybe making that move to the SEC. It's a physical league, so it's somewhere that, you're going to learn how to bang bodies down low.
Yeah,
It's, pretty fast league. What have you done, homework wise to, obviously you probably watch a lot of basketball. Hopefully, we're going to say that you do, right?
yeah,
Always watching film.
yeah.
Um,
It
you
was.
know, what is it about the SEC that is you're excited to obviously you kind of touched on it before, but um, was that maybe a league that you were targeting in terms of going to play in?
Um, I don't think like I was looking for a certain league to go to. I just feel like whichever school had the best playing style for me. Like obviously I wanted it to be like one of those five like top conferences, but I just felt like whichever one had the better playing style for me, the best like suit. I feel like that's where I wanted to go. They just happened to be two SEC schools, so
Yeah. And just, Mark Pope, what conversations have you had with him, obviously, on your visit? But what does he hope to use you as, within the offense? Obviously every coach is going to give you something, but
Yeah.
what are the conversations like that you've had with him about what he sees with you and that vision for you within his offense?
Yeah, something that they said stood out to them when I was at BYU was my passing, and I feel like that's something I just like to do, and especially if I got great shooters around me, it's just it's kind of the best fit for me, and just he's also big on defense. The guys he's recruited, they're all like crazy defenders will pick you up full court. So just having the guys around me who are kind of the same as me, but just like other than shooting, obviously, but like defense wise, I feel like it just makes everyone's job easier knowing that, you got guys pressing the ball. I'm able to be in the key and things like that. So I feel like that's just the main part.
Absolutely. They've already brought in another defensive player of the year that's at a guard position, from the guy from San Diego State. Um, when you on your visit, obviously you were the player. You didn't really have any other players to meet. Has that been kind of weird, adjusting? Obviously when you went to visit Drexel, the entire, you're being recruited, the entire team's there. But now with the portal and things, was it kind of weird going to Kentucky and not having a team to kind of like, bounce off, see the guys, and was that kind of different?
Yeah, it was different. To be honest, even in my other visits, other than St. John's, like I only met one player at Mississippi State. So I feel like that's going to become more normal for, especially if you're transferring. But like for high school people, I feel like the team's obviously going to be there because you can visit in the fall. But yeah, it was just it was something my parents picked upon a lot more than me. But I kind of knew how it was going to be, knowing that portal season was open, so
Yeah.
didn't really phase me. Yeah,
And just kind of to get you out of here, you've gone through Myerscough, you've gone through 4 years at Drexel. Um, when you kind of you got a bunch of guys now at the academy that are hopefully tuning in to see because they want to be the next Amari Williams, they want to be the next great Osabor. Um, you know, what's your message to them and what it takes to get to this level? Not just to get a D1 offer, but to then, be successful, at a D1 program because there's only so many people that get that offer. There's only so many people that, you know, make that jump and are successful. But, what is it about you and what is it about the process that you've learned from that is giving you that success throughout this journey?
yeah. I'll just say, even at my school and like things I went through with national team, I feel like everything takes time. Like you might not be the starter, right off the bat. Like you might not have not everything given to you, but like you might not be the guy on the team straight away. So just taking time and just learning from people who may be in front of you and just using that and just adding it to your own game because you'll be able to see a difference. Not everyone's fortunate to be able to be a starter straight away. So just knowing that you're learning and you're gonna get there eventually, just don't give up, kind of thing.
And the message to the coaching staff at Myerscough, you know, obviously, you've learned a lot from them. I'm sure you speak to Neal quite regularly still. But to realize that they're still in your corner and still fighting for you, to make sure that you've got, all the opportunities, that you can open up for yourself. What is it like to have that coaching staff, still behind you, still, making sure that you're doing all right and checking in with you?
Yeah, I mean that's great. I always tell them how much I appreciate them and that I always will. Just knowing my journey kind of started with them. All the morning practices, all the practices we had like over the years. So it's just I feel like that's a big thing to have, and I'm appreciative that always. So
Yeah, and the way you say it, Neal is pretty, he was pretty positive about it in terms of, I think I lost you. You still there?
I
Sorry, I
think
got you. Um, so Neal was pretty upfront about it, when he said that, the thing that sticks with you or sticks out to him the most is, you're a humble guy and you're always humble, um, with the process. You're whether it's, at getting an offer to go to Drexel or getting an offer and attention to go to Kentucky, you're someone that's always been a humble person, and that kind of stands out, I think, to everyone. I don't want you to be humble. What does it mean to be, going to Kentucky? Obviously, it's got to be just amazing for you. How does it
yeah, I
feel?
mean, yeah. Even on my visit, it was crazy. Just thinking like I'm actually at Kentucky because it's like it's like I said, it's one of them schools you see on TV, like seeing all the guys who came like through the ranks of that school. So Yeah, it's definitely a surreal feeling, and I don't know when it would so like even when they posted that I signed, like it didn't quite feel real, kind of thing. Just seeing it in my bio all the time, so I don't know when it will really like hit me that I'm a part of the team, but yeah, it's definitely a surreal feeling. So.
What's it like putting on that jersey for you? You know, I mean, we've seen the pictures of you in that jersey with Mark Pope. You know, what's it like putting on that jersey? Is it, you know, and what's it going to feel like, you know, run out that tunnel into Rupp Arena to, you know, thousands and thousands of fans because they're going to be there rooting for you.
Yeah, that's what it was. I think seeing Rupp Arena was when I was like, yeah, like I'm really at the University of Kentucky. Because even though they had, I think it was like Disney Dancing on Ice, so the court wasn't there. But just seeing like the arena, like it was crazy. So.
And to have that expectation, obviously, you know, to finish, you know, what's the aim? You know, what are you guys hoping to do? You know, it's obviously the team's still being put together.
I guess, yeah. I mean, like I feel like the main thing would just be to go out there and just, win games. I feel like not really focusing on proving people wrong, just kind of doing our own thing. Everyone's gonna like know that people are gonna say whatever, but like I said, it's just whatever. You just got to go out there and win games. So,
well, Amari, you know, newest member of Kentucky men's basketball, you know, Myerscough alum. It's been a pleasure talking to you. Always great catching up. And you know, I'll be down there. I'm coming down there. I'm making sure me and Neal are gonna be down there again.
Yeah, for sure. Appreciate it.
You got it. Thank you.